Well, Aston Villa is having their worst league start since 1997-1998, finding themselves 18th in the Premier League standings with just 1 goal scored in 3 draws and 2 losses. And they were also already eliminated in Carabao Cup. Brentford defeated them 4-2 in PKs in the 3rd round. Now, things start to get a little bit worse for them because Aston Villa's winless start to the Premier League season has led to a shakeup in the front office and questions about the near-term future of the club, which has slid from Champions League side to one that's now flirting with the relegation zone. Highly regarded Director of Football Operations Monchi stepped down earlier this week from the role that he's held since arriving from Sevilla in 2023. Former Real Sociedad Sporting Director Roberto Olabe has replaced Monchi, and he joins a club dealing with financial fair play issues that have raised doubts about Unai Emery's future and whether Villa can remain a contender in the Premier League. So, guys, we are going to have Guillem join us, but first I want to get your thoughts on how this Aston Villa side has started this season. It's a bit worrying, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say worrying is an understatement, just due to the fact of the lack of goals is what's concerning more than because of the attacking talent that they have. I mean, Ollie Watkins and Morgan Rogers both had an incredible pre-season. They looked like they were about to be firing again coming into the new season, and it just doesn't look like an Aston Villa team. Emery's built a real chemistry and a unity there, and a standard also in terms of, it doesn't matter if they were playing a team at the top end of the table or the bottom end. And right now they just seem a little bit lost, which is confusing because you would think after the long-term deal in the summer, this would be the fluidity and the natural progression.
They got the big goal from Matty Cash over the weekend, and then they weren't able to hold on to the lead. They had a man advantage, and Unai Emery called his team lazy for the way they defended down the stretch in that game. So it's kind of amazing when you consider they've only scored 1 goal, that they've gotten 3 results in the Premier League. I think that attack's going to get going, JD, at some point. They've got too much talent for it not to come around on some level.
Yeah, well, let's bring another voice into conversation, our CBS Sports football correspondent, Guillem Balagué, who's always on the go. Guillem, is that
He's got his luggage.
That's an airport security. That's Heathrow. I know that airport like the back of my hand. That's Heathrow.
How can you tell? You don't
Trust me. I can tell that's Heathrow. I already know.
Oh, my gosh. Well,
I spent enough time in the airport.
What are your thoughts about how they have started off the new season?
Well, I've been lucky enough to be in the training ground almost regularly. A book has just come out today that was done with the people in the inside. It's called Rise of the Villains. And I'm saying that because that gives me a little bit of an insight on how they deal with, do you want to call it crisis? Certainly it's not the start of the season that people expected. But the change of Monchi to Roberto Olabe, as well as being something that perhaps people didn't expect, I see it as a new impulse. So on one hand, you've got a squad that's very similar and an 11 that's very similar to the pre-Unai Emery era, but 50% of the squad has changed. So what is expected is the new players that make a difference. Hasn't happened yet, but there is a lot of room for improvement. That's on the team. That, as we just said, Unai Emery called them lazy, and he said he was very disappointed, not about the result, but about the performance, because he knows there is more to come. But in terms of the team, the club itself, with Roberto Olabe, the new director of football or president of football operations, what you get is somebody that perhaps is less obsessed about the now, like Monchi is. That is magic, isn't it? He's done it at Sevilla and certainly started his time well at Aston Villa. But it's more about the medium term and the long term. He's an expert on philosophy of the club, on bringing players through the academy, on maximizing the potential of the side. He's done that at other clubs like Almeria. He did it in Qatar and certainly at Real Sociedad. So I just wonder if you're going to have now very interesting long conversation of 2 old friends in Unai Emery, who would say, I want success now, and Roberto Olabe, who would say, yeah, okay, but where are we going? And all that will be, in my eyes, another push towards the rise of the villains.
Perfect timing, Guillem, to have you on as this book is coming out right now, and the rise of the villains. Get it, Amazon.com, whatever he's got to do to get that book. When it comes to Unai Emery, we're talking about the most accomplished manager in the history of this competition. Games managed, titles won, matches won. How significant is that to what we're talking about right now? How important is another good run in that competition for him and what they're going through in the context of the start of this season?
Absolutely massive. Because remember, when you bet against Aston Villa being in Europe next season. I'm not going to say who mentioned that just a couple of minutes ago. Remember that he's been 16 consecutive years in Europe. So I think he's going to find a way to get into the top 8, top 9 that could actually guarantee a place in Europe. But more than that, there is something that excites him and everybody that works with him. And it's the possibility of competing in Europe with clubs that perhaps they haven't faced before or others that they have. And that's created memories and expectations and certainly trouble for the fans. And all that makes for a special day in the week, at least, or once or twice a month. That possibility is something that he has already said in the press conference. His face changes when he talks about. It's just something that it is a target for this season, to do well in the Europa League. But not just to do well, to do very well. Why not win it? It will be his 5th time. And I'm sure at some point he will say what he told the Villarreal players when he first joined the team, which is, I won the Europa League. How do you fancy doing it too? And a lot of players went to him and said, you won it before, take us there. And I think this could be a season in which perhaps the mood is a bit low at the moment, but change the mood on a Thursday, because it is something that everybody is very, very excited.
Guillem, you alluded to them being old friends in terms of Olabe and Unai Emery. So I just want to know, how far back does their relationship go, and how do you see it now being in this new working capacity?
They made their debut with Real Sociedad, first team, at the same time, the same game. And even though Unai only played 5 games for Real Sociedad in the first team, they obviously know from that time the Basques, both of them. And at Almeria, Roberto Olabe was the director of football, and Unai Emery, the coach that took Almeria to the first division. Since then, they've been trying to get together. And I had the opportunity to meet them both at Real Union in one little break that Unai had, and Roberto Olabe was there. And you hear them talk, and you have to leave them on their own for after half an hour, because the depth of the knowledge or of the conversation, these are 2 people that understand each other very well. As I said, they're not just people that have worked together, it's people that have been trying to work together since the Almeria time. And it could have happened quite easily that Roberto Olabe finished at Arsenal, where he had an offer. He was the director of football at Real Sociedad when Mikel Arteta was bought. And so there's all this connection. But now they found themselves a time where they can help each other. And as I said, I know Unai just wants to win now and will push the team and will work even harder. I don't know if that's possible at all, but he will try to work harder. And Roberto Olabe will try to think of the medium term. We'll look at the finances. We'll see what the limitations are. The fact that they have to reduce the wages in terms of European finances, what UEFA look into. And they will have to perhaps not being able to do a Rashford or Asensio next. But what is it that they can do with young players, with the ones they've got, and the ones coming through? And there are 3 or 4 that could make their debut this season. So all of that is where Aston Villa, I think, is going to.
Let's explore what you just finished on there a little bit further, Guillem, and that is the finances for Aston Villa, the PSR issues that they've had. How difficult of a job does that make for them in the near term when they're trying to think, as you said, about winning now, but also maintaining financial responsibility?
Not easy at all. And let me take you briefly to the personal experiences of those involved in trying to adjust numbers, like Damir Vidagain, like Monchi himself. It's been very, very demanding for everyone. 2 years at Aston Villa is like 5 years anywhere else. Hence, Monchi perhaps thinking, okay, somebody else has to come in and new energy has to be put in, because he has been very stressful. Of course, as you know, they sold the women's team. They had to sell players as well to adjust the finances. And the players that have come in haven't been first choices. Perhaps Harvey Elliott has, but anywhere else it's just been like because they had to. So you are talking about a team that hasn't been formed in the shape that they planned at the beginning of the summer because of all these circumstances. You were mentioning it earlier. They don't have the pace that you require up front. They don't have somebody challenging Ollie Watkins. Perhaps now that as normally as it is for a 22-year-old like Morgan Rogers, he goes up and down from who can replace him? Perhaps nobody. So there's all those questions that have to do with the development of building of the squad, but they haven't done it with first choices. So there'll be still some January to go in and another summer, because this is a long-term project. And if perhaps they take a couple of steps back this season or one, it will be just down to all that. But I'm sure this is still, I insist, the rise of a team that is now sitting in the table with the big clubs in England.
Rise of the team, rise of the villains. What a perfect name for the book, Guillem. Could you give us a quick overview of what we can expect from the book?
Well, it's like 2 in 1. On the first half that I call The Lion is a biography of Unai Emery. What a story he's got. Obviously, we don't have time to tell it, but you have to read it. And then the second part I call The Pride, which is the pride of being Aston Villa, the pride of the club, the pride of the fans, but also a bunch of lions. That's what a pride is. So, and the second part is a picture of of Aston Villa right now. There are lots of stories from last season, but it's not the story of last season. It's a picture of the people behind the scenes, how the new Spanish people came in, how you bridge the cultural gap, and how Unai Emery does very well what he does. What is his methodology? So a lot of detail there for coaches, football aficionados, and generally people that like to read very good books.
Guillem, a huge congratulations on the book. We're all so excited to finally be able to read it, because I've at least been following on your social media every single time you do
I want an autographed copy. I want an autographed copy.
Yeah, we need autographed copies sent over here. All right, Guillem?